In a quiet village at the edge of a thick forest lived a widow named Abena. Her husband had died years ago, leaving her alone in a small mud hut with nothing but her old cooking pot and memories that weighed heavy on her heart. She was poor, but hardworking. Every evening, after returning from the farm, she would light a small fire outside her hut and cook whatever little yam, cassava, or beans she had managed to gather. But one evening was different. That night, Abena cooked a special meal, a fragrant soup with herbs and spices given to her by a kind stranger at the market. She had never smelled anything like it before. The rich aroma filled the air, sweeter and stronger than any dish she had ever made. The smoke drifted past the huts, curling into the night sky. Villagers passing by stopped, sniffed, and wondered aloud, "Who is cooking like this? It smells too rich for a poor widow." Abena smiled faintly, proud for once that her food smelled like that of a wealthy woman's kitchen. She thought the smell might draw neighbors who would share the meal with her. But as the wind carried the aroma deeper into the forest, something else caught the scent. And what began to move toward her hut was not human. Deep within the forest, where the trees grew so tall that sunlight barely touched the ground, shadows stirred. Creatures that villagers spoke of only in whispers began to awaken. One by one, glowing eyes appeared between the branches. The smell of Abena's cooking carried into their world like an invitation. It wasn't just food, it was something richer, something hidden. Back at the hut, Abena sat on her stool, humming softly as she stirred the pot. The fire cracked, the soup bubbled, and the fragrance grew stronger. Suddenly, she heard a rustle. At first, she thought it was a goat, but then came footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate. They stopped just beyond the glow of the firelight. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice trembling. No answer. She rose, clutching her wooden spoon like a weapon. Then she heard it, a low growl, deep and unnatural, vibrating in the night air. Her heart pounded. The villagers had always warned, never let your cooking attract the forest spirits. Once they smell it, they will come. Abena's hands shook as the flames flickered higher, throwing shadows on the trees. Something was out there, watching, waiting, and slowly it began to step into the light. From the darkness emerged a figure, not entirely human, not entirely beast. Its body was tall and gaunt, its skin cracked like old bark, and its eyes glowed like burning coal. Each step it took made the ground tremble, as if the earth itself feared it. Abena gasped and stumbled back. This was no animal, no man. It was something the elders had warned about for generations. A forest guardian, or perhaps a cursed wanderer. It bent low, sniffing the air, its nostrils flaring at the aroma of her stew. The growl turned into a sound like laughter, mocking, hungry, terrifying. "Who dares cook such a meal under the moon of silence?" the creature hissed, its voice echoing like 1,000 whispers in her ears. Abena's lips quivered, but no words came out. Her pot of food simmered loudly, as though mocking her fear. The creature's clawed hand reached forward, not for her, but for the pot. Abena's instincts screamed, if it eats, something terrible will happen. And so, with shaking hands, she did the unthinkable. She grabbed the pot and flung it into the fire. Flames roared up, smoke filled the air, and the aroma vanished. The creature let out a furious scream that shook the trees, sending birds scattering into the night. But instead of attacking, it stopped. Slowly, its head tilted, its fiery eyes locked onto her. "You are brave," it rasped, "and because of this, your life will change." Then it raised one clawed finger and pointed directly at her chest. The creature's claw hovered before Abena's chest, glowing faintly as though fire lived beneath its skin. She froze, unable to breathe as the air around her thickened. "You threw away the meal," it whispered, its voice trembling between rage and respect. "Few dare to deny me what I seek. For that, you shall not die tonight, but you shall carry my mark." Before Abena could react, the claw pressed gently against her heart. A searing heat shot through her body, and she screamed as if fire coursed in her veins. Her vision blurred, shadows stretched, the stars spun, and in the reflection of the boiling smoke, she saw something horrifying. It was her own face, yet not her own. Eyes glowing faintly red, skin darker, with lines crawling like cracks across her cheeks. She stumbled back, clutching her chest, gasping for air. The creature stepped closer, towering over her trembling frame. "From this night, you belong neither to the living nor to the dead. You will see what others cannot see, hear what others cannot hear. And when you cook again, beware, for the spirits will come." Its laughter rumbled low and heavy, shaking her bones. Then, with a gust of cold wind, the figure dissolved into the forest shadows, leaving behind only silence and the faint scent of smoke and palm oil. Abena collapsed beside the dying fire, clutching herself, shivering. She wanted to believe it was a nightmare, but the burning pain in her chest told her otherwise. The meal she had cooked was gone, but something else had been served, and she was now bound to it. The next morning, the village stirred with the usual rhythm. Roosters crowed, children fetched water, and women prepared cassava for the day's meals. Abena, however, woke drenched in sweat. Her chest still burned where the creature had touched her, and her reflection in the clay water pot made her heart skip. Her eyes, once warm and brown, now carried a faint reddish shimmer whenever the light caught them. "Ay, Abena, are you well?" a neighbor called as she passed by. "You look pale, like you fought with spirits in the night." Abena forced a smile. "Just tired," she muttered, pulling her wrapper tighter around her. But whispers began to spread. Later that afternoon, as she ground maize at the communal stone, the children suddenly stopped playing. One pointed at her shadow cast on the ground. "Ma! Look! Her shadow is moving different." The women turned, and gasps escaped their lips. While Abena's hands pounded the maize steadily, her shadow seemed to move half a heartbeat slower, lagging behind, like something else was controlling it. An elder woman crossed herself and spat on the ground. "This one has been touched," she murmured. "By what, I do not know, but something not of this world." Abena froze, realizing they had noticed. Her hands trembled, the pestle slipping from her grasp. She quickly gathered her things and fled back to her hut, her heart pounding louder than the pounding of maize. Inside, she shut the door, pressing her back against it. She could hear faint whispers around her, voices that weren't there before. And when she looked again into the water pot, her reflection whispered back, "Cook again, Abena, and see who comes." That night, Abena sat alone in her hut, staring at the yams she had set aside. The voice from her reflection still echoed in her ears. "Cook again, Abena, and see who comes." Her hands shook as she peeled and boiled the yam, the steam rising thick and fragrant. She tried to convince herself it was only her imagination, but deep down, she knew the unseen had marked her. As the aroma drifted into the night, there was a faint scratching at her door. Not claws this time, knocks. "Abena, come out!" It was the village elder, flanked by 3 men holding torches. Shadows of curious neighbors danced in the distance. Abena hesitated, clutching the wooden spoon. The elder's voice was firm. "We smell your cooking again. But Abena, the hunters saw footprints near your hut last night. Big ones, not human." Gasps and murmurs followed. The elder narrowed his eyes. "Tell us, child, what are you feeding at night? Spirits, beasts, or has witchcraft found a home here?" Her mouth went dry. She opened her lips to deny it, but then her cooking pot trembled violently on the fire. The lid lifted slightly, and a hiss escaped, almost like a whisper. The men stepped back in fear. One villager cried, "She is feeding the Abonsum, the forest demons." Abena's legs gave way and she sank to her knees. The elder raised his staff, torn between pity and suspicion. "Abena," he said slowly, "if you have made a pact with something not of this world, speak now. For if you stay silent, the ancestors themselves will punish not only you, but us all." The torches flickered, the pot rattled again, and a cold wind swept through the hut, though no window was open. And in that moment, Abena realized she was no longer the only one living in her body. The torches shook in the men's hands as the pot rattled louder, steam bursting through the cracks like it was alive. Abena pressed her palms to the floor, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I swear, I didn't summon anything. I only cooked to survive." But before she could finish, the yam broth inside the pot began to bubble over, splashing the ground with a hiss that sounded like 100 whispers layered together. Then, it happened. From the rising steam, a shape began to form. At first it looked like smoke swirling into a face, then arms, then something in between man and beast. Tall, shadowy, with glowing red eyes that pierced the hut. Gasps erupted outside. Some villagers fled into the darkness. Others fell to their knees, crying out prayers. The elder gripped his staff tightly, forcing himself not to step back. "Abonsum," he muttered under his breath, "the eater of lonely souls." The shadow creature turned its head toward Abena, and its voice slithered like wind through dry leaves. She cooked, and I came. She smells of hunger. She smells of grief. She called me with her sorrow. Abena shook her head violently. No, I never called you. I only wanted to eat, to live another day. The creature tilted its head. And yet, here I am. It stretched its hand toward her, long and clawed, and the torches flickered wildly as if the fire itself was afraid. The elder struck his staff on the ground. Begone! This is no place for your kind. The shadow laughed, a sound that shook the walls of the hut. She belongs to me now, unless you wish to give me something better. The villagers froze. For the first time, they realized it wasn't just about Abena anymore. The spirit wanted an offering, and if they didn't give it, it would take one itself. The night air grew heavier, thick with smoke and dread. Children cried from behind their mothers' wrappers, and men who once bragged of bravery could not lift their spears. The elder's voice trembled. We cannot anger it. If it wants someone, then perhaps. His eyes shifted toward Abena. Whispers spread like wildfire. She must be cursed. She called it with her hunger. If we give her, the rest of us will live. Abena's heart pounded. She staggered back until her back hit the mud wall of her hut. No, please, I never asked for this. I've done nothing wrong. But the shadow creature leaned closer, its red eyes glowing brighter. Yes, give her to me, and your village will be safe. Refuse, and I will feast until none remain. The villagers began to move, forming a circle around Abena. Their faces, her neighbors, people she once greeted at the well, were now twisted by fear. Her chest tightened. So this is it? She cried. After all I've lost, you would throw me away too? The elder raised his staff toward her, his hands shaking. Forgive me, Abena, but for the survival of many, one must fall. The crowd surged forward. Abena screamed, clutching the pot with trembling hands as if it were her only shield. Then, something unexpected happened. The pot flared with blinding light, not red like the shadow's eyes, but golden, warm, powerful, almost divine. The shadow recoiled, hissing in rage, its form flickering like smoke in the wind. The villagers froze, covering their faces from the brilliance. And in that moment, Abena realized the spirit had not come because she was cursed. It had come because something greater was inside her, something even the creature feared. The golden light pulsed from the pot, spilling across the ground like a river of fireflies. The shadow let out a guttural cry, its red eyes dimming. No, it roared, thrashing against the light. This power, it should not be hers. The villagers cowered, their fear now mixed with awe. They whispered frantically, Is she protected by the gods? Could she be chosen? Abena's body trembled, but the warmth of the light soothed her like a gentle hand on her shoulder. She dared to look inside the pot, and for the first time, she saw something more than smoke. Shapes formed in the glow. Faces. Familiar ones. Her late husband, her mother, her ancestors long gone, standing together, their eyes filled with pride. A voice rose from the light, clear and powerful. Abena, child of our blood, your suffering was never forgotten. Tonight, the spirits stand with you. Stand tall. Do not fear. Tears welled in her eyes. She whispered, So I was never truly alone? The ancestors' presence swirled around her, their energy forming a barrier that pushed the shadow further back. The ground quaked beneath its wailing. You can't defeat me, the creature shrieked. I have fed on fear for centuries. No widow, no orphan, no outcast can stand against me. But Abena's voice rang out, steadier than it had ever been. You are wrong. I am not alone anymore, and tonight you will not feed on fear. The villagers gasped as the golden light surged outward, wrapping Abena in a mantle of strength that made her look less like a frail widow and more like a warrior chosen by the ancestors themselves. The battle between the shadow and the light had begun. The night air thundered as the golden light clashed with the shadow's darkness. Sparks shot into the sky, scattering like fireflies over the frightened villagers. Children clung to their mothers. Elders muttered prayers, their voices trembling. The shadow hurled itself at Abena, its form twisting like smoke. But every time it struck, the ancestors' glow repelled it, burning holes through its darkness. You cannot hold me forever, it bellowed. Fear will always return. Hunger will always remain. I will feast again. Abena's face hardened. For the first time since her husband's death, her voice carried not sorrow, but command. Then I will starve you. With trembling hands, she reached into the pot and lifted out a single golden ember. It pulsed in her palm, hot yet comforting. She raised it high for all to see. "This light belongs to us all," she cried, "not just me. As long as we stand together, you will have no place here." The villagers, who had once pitied her, now found courage in her words. One by one, they stepped forward, shouting in unison, "Begone! You have no home here. We are not afraid." Their voices, their unity, fed the ember. It flared so brightly that the night turned to day. The shadows screamed, writhing, as if burned alive by their courage. It tried to flee, but Abena thrust the ember forward, and with a final roar, the darkness shattered into smoke that the wind carried away. Silence fell. Then, slowly, the people began to cheer. Women danced, men beat drums, children clapped. The very ground seemed to rejoice. The pot's light dimmed, returning to its calm glow. Abena collapsed to her knees, exhausted but smiling. An elder stepped forward, bowing deeply. "Widow no more. Tonight you are mother to us all. The ancestors have chosen you as our guide." Tears filled Abena's eyes. For years she had cooked alone, wept alone, survived alone. But now the village embraced her, lifting her on their shoulders, chanting her name. And in the distance, just before the pot's glow vanished completely, she swore she saw her husband's spirit smiling. From that night on, the widow was no longer known for her sorrow, but for the night she defeated the darkness and became the protector of her people.